Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. News in the gospel broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. It says major U.S. cities just lost federal funding. This comment stem of a partial shutdown because I remember the House, I don't think they voted on a budget bill for the DHS and ICE to increase the budget, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot that's going on as far as this partial government shutdown because certain programs aren't being funded. And I know that the left wing was kind of pissed off at the right wing because, you know, the budget proposals that was put in place for ICE. And they're like, wait a minute, ICE is harassing American citizens, so why do we want to continue to front the bill on that? Which at the end of the day, they're just playing on a psyche because they're both in bed in tandem with one another when it comes to oppressing you people because, I mean, they do it for sport. Especially you Negroes, man. Okay, the right wing, the left wing, they don't give a shit about the Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So ultimately, this is just a play on the psyche of the people. But nonetheless, it says major cities just lost federal funding, which means a lot of programs are getting ready to get cut. And I believe these were sanctuary cities like New York, Chicago, L.A. Those more Democrat-led sanctuary cities are losing federal funding. So a lot of their programs are going to be cut. And eventually, they will cut off federal programs to these particular cities because, you know, this is the time now that a great division is in the midst, you know, when Democrats and Republicans are causing a division between the people, you know, and these states are going to go under too because once the federal government collapses, the state government cannot sustain themselves, nor can they sustain the weight of a local municipality, which is a city government. So the federal state government goes, then the state government is going to go or proceed to step up, and then the city government is going to go. And a lot of times when the federal government goes, the city government goes because a lot of city incentives is based on federal grant money, you know, like for the health departments and, you know, the HIV departments and, you know, them funding juice or vaccines, as we should say. And a lot of times these programs go out of commission because they don't have the federal funding. And the budget proposals are cut short. Like here in KC, I believe they like in a couple $1 million deficit when it comes to city funding. So they're cutting jobs left and right. And the city is pretty much on a hiring freeze right now. So they're trying to see what works and what don't work, you know. But regardless of it, you know, we're in a time now that Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is bringing a judgment on America. And a lot of people are getting ready to lose their jobs. As we know that over 1 million so-called black women were laid off since last year. And it could be more than that. All right. So anyway, this is from the Snyder Report. He has some pretty good videos. He bring out some pretty relevant information. But I got a couple of videos queued up that kind of goes into this ordeal. But we could start with the Snyder Report first and see what he says. And we get a couple of precepts and that'll be that. Hold on, let me do this real quick. Where we at? All right, bingo. Let's go to the book of Ephesians 5. And we're going to go to the book of Second Address, 16th chapter. And we're going to go all the way down to verses. No, I think it's Second Address. Is it 15 or 16? 16. And we're going to jump around a little bit, but we're going to start at 40. All right, so let's play the video, then we'll go into those precepts. So here we go.
Trump has just announced
fair use, by the way, fair use.
That major U.S. cities will not receive federal funding. This includes massive cities like New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Illinois, Denver, Colorado, San Francisco, California, Boston, Massachusetts, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, even Seattle, Washington. Now, why is President Trump threatening to pretty much withhold federal funding to these states and these cities? Well, it's because of one thing. Look at this right here. President Trump is threatening to cut funding from sanctuary cities. That is the reason why. This isn't anything new. We have known this for the past several weeks, that come February 1st, this was a very high probability. That's exactly what President Trump stated. And February 1st is today, meaning some of these cities are not going to receive federal funding. But can President Trump do this? Is this something that he can unilaterally do without Congress? Well, some say no. You need Congress in order to do this. They have the power of the purse. They can control who gets the money and how much they get. But here's the thing. According to reports, the Trump administration has found a loophole to get around this. Not only that, we are still trying to deal with some funding. There's still a fight over funding that has to go to the House of Representatives tomorrow for a vote in order to keep the federal government open. Guess what? If Democrats do not support what President Trump is talking about right now, according to experts just this morning, they are saying that Republicans can actually just withhold this funding bill, meaning several government agencies could be shut down for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, and they were talking about healthcare, they were talking about Social Security. All these things will be affected down the line. All right, welfare, which I believe they funded a SNAP program, which is the EBT program, up into September this year, which, I mean, if anything, they just need to let that shit go. All right, because it seems like they sustaining these women, and it's causing them to be more proud. But, somewhere down the line, something is going to cause a ripple effect, and all these programs are just going to go kapoof. They're just going to disappear, because what we're witnessing is a great reset. So they're using every excuse, but we don't have the money, the taxpayers, all this other stuff. It's really an excuse to bring in a new world order and to bring in an RFID chip system, all right, the digital system. That's what it's always been about. So right now, this is what they call the squeeze. They're putting the squeeze on everybody and hanging everybody on the line for taxes and more taxes, and rents are going up and all this other stuff. But eventually, the system just going to collapse. All right, they're talking about bank runs like I think it was like the Illinois Bank in Chicago failed. And I think JP Morgan Chase, I was looking at one video, and one individual was basically stating that how he looked at his account and it was all zeros. And basically that's what happens before they start to collapse these banks. So they're going to collapse these banks, and then eventually everything is going to go digital, and you're going to need a digital identification, what we call under the skin surveillance, which is the chip, in order to get somewhat of your life back. And if not, then there's going to be a witch hunt for you. Okay?
So again, according to President Trump, Democrats were the ones that caused the 43-day shutdown. Well, now some say it might be a Democrat started shutdown, but Republicans could finish it. We'll see what happens there. Listen to this right here.
Get more crypto for your cash and get started with as little as $1.
The 3-in-1 that actually turns him on. His confidence hits different with Rougi at Ready. It dissolves under his tongue.
So federal funding is ending today on February 1st for several sanctuary cities. I want to talk about this a little bit more, what the impact is from all of this. So joining us now to discuss is Jimena Bustillo. She is a reporter with NPR focusing on immigration and the Department of Homeland Security. Jimena, good morning.
Good morning.
So let's just start with a breakdown here for our viewers. What is a sanctuary city, and how do city officials designate it? What is that process like?
Yeah, I mean, this gets really tricky. There is no exact legal definition of a sanctuary city, but, really broadly talking, the term has been used to describe or define any city, state, or county that limits its cooperation with federal immigration authorities. And so, an example of this could be a city whose police department are not necessarily enforcing themselves federal immigration law, if they pull someone over.
So it's not only that if a law enforcement officer pulls you over and sees, this person doesn't have legal status here in the United States, they don't go and report you to the Customs and Enforcement. Okay, and so one of the things that the Trump administration wants is for all law enforcement, okay, every single one, if they pull you over and you don't have legal status, then you'd get reported to immigration. Doesn't mean you'd right there be put in the back of an immigration van and you're deported. No, there's a process, but that's what they want. Now, here's what's interesting though. Okay, well, I want to read something to you. These are the sanctuary cities, and just keep in mind, these cities are all over the place. But here are some of the biggest sanctuary cities, and this is where a lot of people are moving to. Okay, they're going to some of these cities because again, they're trying to, especially if you are, not, born here in the United States, or you don't look the part, which again, interesting. But people are moving to these cities because again, they want to feel safer. But the list, these are the notable cities. It's New York City, Los Angeles, California, Chicago, Illinois, San Francisco, California, Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Portland, Oregon, Denver, Colorado, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Newark, New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey, Hoboken, New Jersey, and even East Lansing, Michigan. There are also many counties that are designated sanctuary.
Yeah, all sanctuary cities, all liberal cities, where all the weirdo shit goes on that. And everybody in the comment board, they're happy about it, but they don't understand that this is going to affect them too, because once they take federal funding out of these red states, then that's when shit really hits the fan, because eventually the federal government, everything is going to collapse, even though it's being done by design, So let's excuse me, let's get this precept real quick. Ephesians 5:15. It says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, and not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil." Right. So we in an evil time right now. People in crash out mode. People are losing it. The love for one another is going cold. People don't have any type of loyalty anymore. And when the money is affected, that's when people are gonna really start to show their horns, their true colors, man. People have been moving a lot different lately at work. Hell, your family members and people just been moving different because they feel the squeeze. There's a spirit that's on people right now, because they see that the end is nigh. Even if they don't want to truly believe it, it says, "Redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of Yahweh is," right? And the will of the Lord is to destroy Babylon the Great. Okay? It says, "And be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit." So we got to stay in the Spirit, man. All right? This ain't time to be out here reckless and jumping up and down and inviting everybody to drink coffee with you. Nah, man, this is the time of the Lord. He's getting ready to bring hell in this place. These jobs are getting ready to be affected. People are getting ready to be on edge, man. Because they're wicked. It's the Lord's judgment. Let's go to the book of Isaiah 60. In verse 1, it says, "Arise and shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee." It says, "For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, but the Lord shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee." So when these things begin to transpire and take place, there's going to be a spirit on us that the Lord is dealing with us, man. And that's when the powers, the Isaiah 4:1, all these things that we talk about, as the scriptures say, wisdom and knowledge should be the stability of thy times. This is when the men of the Lord are going to truly shine. All right. And people are going to start to realize, like, wait a minute, man, this is a servant of the Most High. And then people are going to try to get down with the program, but it's going to be too late for majority of you people. All right. Because you're not taking heed now. But it says here, "The Lord shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee." So in these times, brothers, we're getting ready to shine, man, because we're not really worried about all this other stuff that's going on. It doesn't really affect us, though it will affect us, but emotionally it does not really affect us, because it's just like, okay, it is what it is. We're going to depend on Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. This is why taking the time to build your faith up, praying, whatever you got to do, fasting, to build up your wisdom and understanding in these times, because these people, they're going to get caught with their pants down. And you can see it, they're not ready. All right, they thought this guy Trump was going to come in and make America great again. And he told you straightforward. He said that would be 2 years of pain. He told you. And then you got that big, beautiful bill, one big, beautiful bill. He's cutting a lot of shit, man. And a lot of jobs are going to be cut. All right. Isaiah 33:6, it says, "And wisdom and knowledge should be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation, and the fear of the Lord is his treasure." Okay. Wisdom and knowledge should be the stability of thy times. And these people, they're not going to be stable because they're getting ready to lose everything that they got. All right. Civil war. There will be a civil war. There would be layoffs. There would be job market crashes. All right. So let's go to another video here. Hold on. It says government shuts down again at the Democrat revolt over DHS funding. So let's look at this video real quick.
So much to get to today. So the U.S. government is headed toward a partial shutdown, and that is despite the White House and Chuck Schumer reaching a deal to peel off DHS funding from the larger spending package. But that agreement hitting a snag because of a key Republican senator. Congressional correspondent Bill Malugin is live on Capitol Hill with the latest to explain. Bill.
Yeah, Emily, good afternoon to you. It's Republican Senator Lindsey Graham who isn't thrilled about the way these negotiations have been going. He is the holdout on this deal, and he just spoke on the Senate floor a short time ago where he demanded a vote on sanctuary cities in order to lift his hold. Take a listen.
I will not lift my hold on this bill until I get guaranteed a vote on my legislation that would criminalize the conduct going forward.
And the clock is ticking at midnight.
Yeah, and that's the holdup right there. See, and that show you right there, he just revealed a lot of their true intent, because you got them complaining that ICE is beating down Jakes and just American citizens, but yet they didn't vote to stop the shit. You know? So he's just like, if they're not going to be held accountable, then I ain't doing anything. Which proved that Congress don't have a problem with what ICE is doing. Okay, they just telling you they have a problem. They don't have a problem with them grabbing up so-called minorities and putting them in prison. Hell, Trump is got the budget approval for 23 new ICE facilities around the country. What you think that was part of the big, beautiful bill? That's part of that $1 billion package that he gave the ICE, which is the law. That's the most funded form of law enforcement to this current day is ICE. And then that big budget that comes with hiring more men, more military weapons, okay, more surveillance, and also the building of these detention centers, these FEMA camps. That all was a part of it. So you think he gonna let that money? Trump ain't gonna let the money go to waste on something he wanted to do. You know? So that's why the scriptures say we've been given over to a hand of a cruel Lord.
Tonight, 78% of the federal government is going to run out of funding. Now, the deal between the White House and the Senate would split off a DHS funding bill from a package of 5 other funding bills that can pass with bipartisan support. Then it would fund DHS with a 2-week stopgap while ICE reforms are negotiated.
If Republicans are serious about the very reasonable demands Democrats have put forward on ICE, then there is no good reason we can't come together very quickly to produce legislation. It should take less than 2 weeks.
But that deal would still lead to a partial government shutdown tonight. That's because any change to the package of 6 funding bills would then send those bills back to the House, and the House is out of session this week.
We'll have to evaluate whatever comes together once Lindsey Graham stops his temper tantrum, and clearly is going to have to drop his objection because of his obsessive quest to get this multi-million-dollar slush fund. This is insanity. This is who the Republicans have become.
And some Republicans say Democratic demands are all just to appease their far-left progressive base.
President Trump has come out and said, listen, I'll work with Chuck Schumer. I'll work with the Democrats. It's actually absurd what this political theater that the Democrats are doing here with DHS.
Emily, the Senate is back in session. They're going to try to crank out a deal today. Again, the problem is any deal has to go to the House. The House isn't here, and Speaker Johnson says he probably can't even get them here until Monday at the earliest. We'll send it back to you.
Bill, thank you. What is a bigger miss, Carly, the snow and the streets of D.C., or what is happening inside the House?
I know. Well, it's important what Lindsey Graham is doing right now, because the Senate does need a unanimous vote to advance this legislation. So one senator raising their hand and saying, I'm not going to do it, could really clog this whole process up. If he does get on board, however, this could be a weekend shutdown. You got to get the House back in session to advance this legislation. And it does show how divided Congress is. If this is a few days of a government shutdown and somehow feels like a win, like these things shouldn't be happening at all. But if it's a short shutdown and ultimately both sides come to a resolution and you start to feel like this wasn't that long, this is no big deal, then you know that things are really mucked up when it comes to how Washington works.
I don't care if it's short, if it's an hour, shutdown. Right? I don't care. The lawmakers keep their salaries. If they were penalized for this, we would probably have a resolution a lot quicker because there's a lot of economic stress involved in this. Once again, citizens get screwed.
So first of all, if this shuts down, it's a Democrat-owned shutdown because the 6 bills...
They don't care about the citizen. That's the point. And that's going to lead, like I said, it's going to lead to a lot of job losses, man. A lot of layoffs.
All right, everyone. The January layoff notices are absolutely piling up. Let me just give you a small list of layoffs for January so far. Amazon, Home Depot, UPS, Cigna. I was told today 2,000 people were laid off at Cigna. Meta, Nike, Pinterest, General Motors, a company called Trek, T-R-E-K, is teetering on the brink of bankruptcy and laying off. Also, a Houston company with 4,500 employees called Dow Inc. is teetering also on the brink of layoff. 2025, we saw almost 1.2 million people lose their job. That was a 4.5-year high. 60% of companies are planning on laying off this year in 2026. We are going to hit a catastrophic job market, even worse than it is now.
So, I got laid off yesterday. Feels so weird to even say that because this has never happened to me. I've never gotten fired from a job.
See, that's the bullshit. That's why these layoffs can't come quick enough because, like, who gives a fuck? Like, the pride of these people. I've never been laid off. I've never been fired before. I bet you've gotten fired from a man, though. And this is what keeps you women and single. This is what keeps you women being passed around like joints and ciphers because of the attitude. You have all this type of energy for your boss at work and enslave yourselves and prostitute yourselves for your jobs, but you can't be a wife to your husband. It's crazy work, man. That's why we don't feel no type of way about what's coming. If anything, we pray it continues. All right, the pride is sickening here.
I've never gotten laid off. I've always really left a job on my own terms. So this is something that I feel like I'm kind of struggling with and trying to get through right now, but...
Well, guys, after receiving more than 453 paychecks from Amazon, I have officially been added to the 16,000 people they have laid off just this month. And even though I won't be getting paychecks from them anymore, they still will be feeding my pockets because I will continue to invest in their stock. Most of us know that Amazon is in the works of trying to transition into leveraging AI and automation within their company. With fewer people being needed for their corporate tasks and labor work, this leaves Amazon's profit margins to increase more than ever before. Amazon is just simply cutting back on layers to enhance the efficiency of the company using AI. This is not just to cut costs, and it's damn sure not because of financial hardship. We all know Amazon is very, very well off as a company. With 14,000 job cuts in October of 2025 and about 16,000 job cuts in January of 2026, that's about 30,000 job cuts in total. Sheesh. This is exactly why it is very crucial for you guys to be building financial stability, investing in the market, and make...
Well, because they getting ready to put this digital system online, and you're going to have the chip in order to be able to have a job. So they're putting a squeeze on everybody. And when they collapse the economy, the RFID chip will be king. Okay, this digital system with the RFID chip being the primary culprit behind this new system, they're going to force people to take that, man. And those of us that don't take it, they're going to come looking for us. We're going to be like enemies of the state. Second edge is 16. Matter of fact, let's go second edge is 16. And Let's start at verses 40. Matter of fact, 39. It says, even so, should not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the whole world should mourn, and sorrow should come upon it on every side. We're seeing that. Okay, what you think these videos are about? Well, I've never been fired before. I've left on my own terms, etc. These people are mourning because they have no hope. 401ks, bank accounts are being emptied out. People are being took it to the cleaners on a daily basis. People losing businesses, you know, and it's looking very grim. And it says, "Oh, my people, hear my word to make you ready to thy battle. And even in those evils be as pilgrims upon the earth." So when these things transpire, we're going to have to move around. Okay, you can't just be sitting in your apartment when hell breaking loose in these cities, man. Troops out here, marauders, people kicking in doors. You're going to have to move around, all right? Because, hey, the scriptures say so. Because you will be a sitting target. It says, "He that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away. And he that buyeth as one that will lose. And he that occupieth merchandise as he have no profit by it, and he that buildeth as he that should not dwell therein." So it's going to come a time that these things that we done in life will be as they never been. Okay, ain't nobody going to be going to no damn job and when you got a civil war in the streets. Oh, well, you got to come to work at 8 o'clock. Says who? You know, people ain't going to be in that mindset. Hell, even Elon Musk stated that, well, if you want to have a job, it will be optional if you want to work or not, because AI will take over 95% of the companies, man. So you ain't gonna have to work, which means that you're gonna be based on some type of universal basic income, meaning they're gonna give you an allowance every month based on your social credit scores, which is gonna be predicated on that chip. So if you ain't in the system, then you ain't gonna have a social credit score if you don't take the chip. Hence, you can't eat anyway. But those of you that may speak out against government authorities and you get the chip based on your social credit score, they just gonna cut you off from society. You know, but those of us that completely go off the grid, they're going to be hunting us, you know, and that's how it's going to be. But it reads, "He that soweth as he that should not reap, also he that planteth the vineyard as he that should not gather the grapes. And they that marry as they that should get no children, and they that marry not as the widowers, and therefore they that labor in vain." So, end of the day, it's all vanity. It's just a means to an end. These programs are going to get cut. All right, people getting ready to lose their homes, their jobs, all types of shit. And hey, going back to 2020, when the economy was going through its shit then, and people were getting laid off due to this COVID shit, hey, people was bugging out then. Domestic violence went up, divorce rates, violence went up. Hell, they said 2021 was one of the most violent years on record in Chicago, man. So how much more when the society collapses? There's going to be more crash outs. Okay, more motherfuckers sliding on the ops. Okay, more raping of the women, more domestic violence. This is going to be complete anarchy in the streets, man. And this is what they're planning. Okay? So I'm going to end it. All praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Lord's will you edify. Until the next lesson, Shalom.
Making sure you have yourself together so you do not have to worry about getting laid off, especially from a job like Amazon.
Tonight, shockwaves across Seattle's economy. Amazon is announcing another massive round of layoffs with 16,000 corporate jobs being cut. Couples Joel Moreno live in Seattle this evening with how the announcement is already hitting far beyond the company's own walls. Joel?
Preston, these layoff notices come on the heels of thousands of job eliminations that took place just 3 months ago. Now, the ripple effects on the local economy yet to be seen, but there is a lot of concern among small businesses that depend on Amazon's workforce.
When it comes to one-of-a-kind cuisine that draws a crowd, Sam Dangle is quickly building a reputation among the Amazon workers who favor his special recipes from Nepal.
We are serving a famous Himalayan dumplings, something that's unique here.
Dangle says he relies heavily on Amazon workers to keep his restaurant afloat.
So definitely at lunchtime is Amazon staffs.
But now Amazon is parting ways with 16,000 corporate workers, which follows the layoff announcements just 3 months ago when 14,000 staff members were suddenly let go. Some Amazon employees are trying to take it in stride.
There's a lot, but, I've been in this industry for over a couple decades now, and so I've seen quite a bit of it. So it's part of the cycle.
The Downtown Seattle Association said in a statement, A workforce change of this scale has ripple effects on the community, on individual employees and families and businesses that rely on the foot traffic. As companies grapple with emerging trends, we hope this pain is short-term. And Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal says higher unemployment and a lack of job growth is hurting the overall economy.
We need employers who are responsibly thinking about how they support workers in this environment.
Dangle says he'll try to adapt if there is a downturn.
All depend on Amazon staffs here.
And as Amazon incorporates more artificial intelligence into its operations, workers will look to stay relevant.
For me, it's tell me and my team to focus on what you can control.
Now, while we know there are 16,000 layoffs company-wide, Amazon declined to say how many of those jobs are based right here in the greater Seattle area. Well, we will be checking with the State Employment Security Department to see exactly when they publish those details. Reporting live, Joel Marino.
Dow Chemical is a major employer here in Freeport. It was established in 1940 and spans more than 7,000 acres. The chemical complex here is one of the largest in the world. Dow has more than 40 production plants here that produce 44% of Dow's products in the U.S. and 20% worldwide. Dow says it will lay off almost 15% of its workforce, some 5,000 employees.
For Freeport, this is a big deal given that Dow employs about 7,000 people at its site and also uses another 4,500 contractors in the vicinity. So the loss of a significant amount of jobs is going to be a big impact throughout the community.
The reason? A shift to AI automation.
Some of it is due simply to the competition that we're seeing in the petrochemical industry, where a lot of the big plants are being built in the Middle East as well as China.
While specifics of how and where layoffs will occur are unknown, the news isn't good for small business owners here in Freeport. How do you feel when you hear something about Dow thinking about laying off that many people?
I just feel like that's a big number, you know. I just feel like, man, I know a lot of people that work in Dow, so I hope they're safe, you know. And Dow brings a lot of clients to us also because we're a barbershop around the Freeport area, and, you know, Dow is pretty big in Freeport. And I just hope it don't affect their families.
We heard about that when some of Dow, workers came to eat here, and then they told us about it.
How does that make you feel when you hear that?
Not happy, of course, yes.
I spoke with Freeport Mayor Jerry Kane, who told me, quote, "We have not received info on specific impacts on Freeport, but we will continue to monitor the situation." Reporting from Freeport, Randy Wallace, Fox 20.
Atlanta-based logistics giant UPS is planning to cut up to 30,000 jobs this year. We learned tonight that the company started its reduction plan late last year. Atlanta News First, Bridget Spencer is live from the UPS customer care facility. That's in Southwest Atlanta. And Bridget, what does this mean for some of those employees?
Well, Tracy, a lot of people will be affected by this in some way. However, UPS told me over the phone today that they're working hard, working diligently to help those people out. In fact, this facility right here behind us on Marvin Miller Drive will be one that's closing. Atlanta-based UPS announced they're cutting up to 30,000 operational jobs in 2026. We're talking about jobs like drivers and those who load trucks in the warehouse. Last year, the company said they were working to reduce their dependence on their biggest customer, Amazon, and focus on other industries. The CFO saying the job cuts will be made through a voluntary buyout and mostly through attrition.
One was the tariffs on low dollar value items coming from China. And then number two is the winding down of the Amazon business. Both of those lines of business were probably pretty low margin. And so this will improve the profitability of UPS.
Doug Bowman teaches marketing at Emory University and has closely followed what UPS is doing. A UPS rep told us a lot of this also has to do with automating certain jobs.
The logistics industry obviously is going under as a lot of pressures for automation. We see in the popular press, Amazon is very good at giving us sound bites about how automated their warehouses are. It puts a lot of pressure on companies like UPS.
UPS will be closing their facility on Marvin Miller Drive in Atlanta. In a statement, they tell us, quote, All affected employees are being offered positions at nearby locations. UPS remains one of the leading employers in the Atlanta metro area with approximately 12,000 employees, and we are committed to supporting our employees throughout this process.
UPS is a well-run company. I would